Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Horn, and I've been asked just to speak to you all today. So I'm going to welcome you to this special episode of the Kidwells Solicitors Straight Talking Law. We're recording this in honour of White Ribbon Day, which is a very serious subject. Very serious indeed, actually, because this is about a movement calling for an end of domestic violence and violence generally against women. And you'd think, wouldn't you, that we get to the grand old year of 2025 and domestic violence would be at an end. And it just amazes me when I hear about the abuse that people go through. And it's frightening and it's awful. And there's one thing that I've noticed, actually, is that very, very rarely indeed does somebody just out of the blue become violent or aggressive or abusive. And when you look at this and when you analyze what's going on, it's a progression. It starts off with small things, which might be a little bit controlling. Things that you might think, well, look, that's fine. He just wants to know where I am. And then, he just wants to know what I'm spending. And then it just progresses. And I hear horror stories really overall about women that are being told what to wear, who they can speak to, what their friends are, what time they've got to take the children, collect them, what money they have, what money they can't have, about holidays where they can go, who they can see. And the control creeps up on people. And I think overall that once you become committed, most people will try and work a relationship out. Most people will carry on and carry on and carry on because they think, oh no, it's okay. And then they just create that excuse for that person. It's okay. It's because he's had a hard day at work, or no, it's okay. It's because he didn't get the promotion, or it's okay because, and it may even be that you create it's okay because his football team didn't win. And you'll generate those excuses for that person. But if you can analyze them and if you could go back and really create some kind of a graph of how they escalate, and it's a progressive, and really where you are at the moment is that you are suffering an abuse that you have really decided that you're going to accept because you want to try and make your relationship work. Well, of course, that's a matter for you, for the person in the relationship. And if that's what you want to do, who am I to say that you shouldn't? But there is a line. And there's a line between having your partner, your husband, know where you are, who you're speaking to, or perhaps even allowing them access to your telephone and your passwords for your social media, which just might be totally acceptable in the relationship. It might be a two-way thing. But there's a line that can be crossed. And that line is when somebody then starts to experience what they might say when they reflect as abuse. And abuse can be all of those things I've mentioned. It can be controlling behavior, bank accounts, passwords, controlling what you wear, where you go, who you see. But actually, those are the preamble steps to aggression and violence in the home. And I often say to people that, well, nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors. And that's a very old saying. And it's absolutely right. Nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors. But there should be some respect. And if you love somebody, and if you expect them to love you, then I think the test has to be that you come first. And that cannot be that you become subject to all those abuses that other person thinks are right, because he's thinking of himself, he's not thinking of you. And in essence, to my mind, that possibly can't be love. So you then get to the stage where possibly it becomes physical. Perhaps, I don't know, you become so frustrated you might slam a door, and the next thing you know, he's punching or kicking the door, and the violence escalates. And then you're in this position that you are locked in a house where you're supposed to be safe. And you remember that the lock on that door is to keep the violence and to keep the predators out, not to lock them in with you. And if you are in a house and the person that you're with is predatory, aggressive, abusive, and you're locking yourself in with that person, and you've got to know that it's progressive. It's not going to get better. It's more than possibly going to get worse. So what can you do about it? You're committed, you've got children, you've got a mortgage, you've got a job, you need somebody to look after the children. You've made these excuses. It's okay, his football team lost, that's why he got aggressive, etc., etc. So there are lots of places that you can go. Women's Aid, you can talk to people on the internet, join social groups, speak to your friends. And of course, you can go along and see a solicitor. Well, a solicitor really is somebody that most people go to when things have got a little bit too bad, and they're looking as a reaction to try and fix something in the immediate near future, rather than try and plan something before it gets that bad. So if you're experiencing abuse and you are feeling it, and it is conduct by your partner that you say is unacceptable, but you are tolerating it, that is the time that you need to be thinking about speaking to a solicitor, speaking to somebody else. Go to one of those charities that you can find on the internet, and you need to speak to them, and you need to say to them, look, I feel that it's progressing. And then there might well be mediation. So you might be able to, at that stage, sit down with your partner and say, look, this is progressing. We've lost sight of us. We've lost sight of where we are going. But if that's not the case, and if you're afraid of that person because you are now in a reactive stage of the relationship, then of course you should then rely on those experts and professionals around you. Certainly a solicitor. But if you are in danger, if this is escalating, then it must be the police. And when you report this to the police, you've got to be able to do it in such a way that you emphasize to the police just how this has progressed. So have a mind for things, possibly keep a diary so that you can demonstrate how things have been escalating and why. But the police don't always help, and we know that. There are lots of reasons why, but let's just imagine for whatever reason they don't help you right now, and that leaves you in a very dangerous position. Well, you can make an application to the court for some protection from your partner, non-molestation orders. You can have orders to keep that person away. You can have live with orders so that the court can order the children live with you, with then contact. And if your partner has been violent, aggressive, abusive to the level of the court believing that that's abusive to the children, then contact can be by way of supervision. So it can be supervised at a contact centre, which means that you bring the whole thing back to a level where professionals are involved. And what that means actually is that you are now on the road to a safer part of the world for you and your children or other dependents that might be with you. Occupational orders are orders that the court can also consider. And what that means basically is that the court can decide who lives in that house. And if you need to live there to look after the children, get them to and from school and keep them in that environment that they're used to, only without the threat of the abusive partner, then the court can do that. You can apply for this even if you're not married. So if you're in a relationship with somebody and they're abusive, then you can apply to the court whilst you are in that family relationship, even though you're not married, for those protections. So you can get legal protection from police, from a solicitor. You can make applications to the court yourself. Or if you are the victim of abuse, then you may well get legal aid. And you can go along and you can speak to these professionals. Of course, there are going to be lots of questions that come from that quite short summary of what you can get, the assistance. My advice always is speak with the professionals. But in any event, I'd like to thank you for joining me now talking about White Ribbon Day in this episode. And if today's podcast has resonated with you, if you're worried about somebody you know, a family member or a friend, then please remember that you're not alone and help is available. Our solicitors here at Kidwells are here to provide confidential advice and practical support for anybody affected by domestic abuse or harassment or violence. You can reach us at Kidwells Solicitors by visiting our website or calling 01432 278 179. You can also get help by contacting the National Domestic Abuse Helpline on 0808 200 247. If you're in danger, the police on 999. Please don't be in danger. Think about these things early. Thank you for listening and supporting White Ribbon Day.